Baroom. And welcome. Oh boy. Drugs are bad. Okay. Hello everybody. And welcome to what will be episode number 7. Episodio numero 7. Oh, my Spanish is abysmal. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just lived in Puerto Rico for 3 years. Meh. Right, so this is Harry Potter Abridged, and we are reading Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And chapter number 7 is called The Sorting Hat. A famous character / non-character from the book that one of our admins seems to do a pretty good job playing the role of. She knows what house we all go in and what hybrid houses we all fit in too. But that's another topic. This chapter I did not read ahead, so we're going to see how this goes. I did the same thing with the earlier chapters, but then like the last 3 I think I read before I did the abridgment. So we'll see how we are here. This chapter picks up right where the last one left off, like some of the other ones did earlier. And so, as you will remember from the previous chapter, Hagrid just knocked on the doors of the castle, and of course, in accordance with how this is all planned out, McGonagall is right inside, and she opens the door. She has her emerald green robes on, her stern face is in place. Excuse me. And Hagrid delivers the first years. And so exit stage left Hagrid for the moment. Well, he's going to just be in the Great Hall anyway. But they come into the entrance hall of the castle, which is huge. So huge it's described that the whole of the Dursleys' house would fit inside of it. Just the entrance hall. And, we get the whole medieval castle thing, which is, a cool... let's face it, like, one of the coolest things about Harry Potter is Hogwarts. There's a lot of things that are cool about it, don't get me wrong, but the setting is pretty fucking awesome. So, yeah. Damn. Sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to cough it that much, but sometimes you hit it too hard. That's what happens. So yeah, we got the stone walls, we got the torches and brackets, we got all that kind of stuff. Flagged stone floor. And so everybody else they can hear is in the Great Hall already, but they are not. The first years are separated still. And McGonagall puts them in like a little... It says a small empty chamber off the hall, but like it makes me think of where like the broom cupboard that like Ron and that Harry and Hermione hide in and Prisoner of Azkaban. But I don't know. Like, I don't know about you guys that like that read the books, have read the books many times, but like. I try to have like a rough geography of Hogwarts in my head, but I realize that like it's never exactly what Rowling was imagining in her head, and it's also not exactly what the movies show either. But the movies don't really give you a full overview anyway. Obviously, they're just showing you shot by shot the angles they want to show you, and then they can change things up as they go. But anyway, it's just interesting. So she puts them all, not really that interesting, but just kind of humorous because she just throws them in an empty room and it's not that big. And it's all sort of I appreciate that there's like a ceremony to like your first day and your first entrance into Hogwarts, regardless of whether you're from a wizarding family or a muggle family or whatever, or if you're just Harry. And so she gives them a little welcome speech and start a term banquet, blah, blah, blah. She mentions the sorting and how important it is because your house is your family in Hogwarts, which is, quite true. You spend a lot of time around each other. She names off the houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. She mentions the house points, and then the house cup, which is based off of the house points, unless, of course, Harry's at school, and then it's sort of, a little more arbitrary, but, hey, whatever. And then she leaves him for a minute, which, again, I think is probably not necessary, but it's kind of funny anyway that's what happens. It's like just part of it. And then while they're waiting, where is it? I just want to make sure I don't get too far ahead of myself because I know what's going to happen. But and somebody says that they think that, well, I think it's Ron says that he thinks that the sorting might be some kind of test, and Harry's like, oh shit, what test? How could I pass any test that has anything to do with magic? He's not even thinking about the fact that there's other people that are in the same situation as him. He's just so panicked by it that he's like, which I mean I get, that's how I get when I panic too. What the fuck was that? Y'all heard that? Huh. Stay tuned. Anyway, total distraction. All right, we're tracks on trains. Random noises in Puerto Rico. But then Harry looks around and realizes that everybody else is freaking out too, so it's not just him. But and Hermione is whispering stuff under her breath about spells that she's learned, trying to think of things, and because of course she is. Oh, and then the ghosts appear. They're hanging out in there, and then some random ghosts just kind of fade through the wall into the room, and they're like, whoa. And that freaks them the fuck out, on top of the fact that they're already worried about, which I guess potentially, again, it's hard to know what's planned and what's just randomly occurring in Hogwarts, because it does seem like the kind of place where random things do happen. So it's were the ghosts to come along and completely distract them from the fact that they're about to go to the sorting, or what, But because they come in in the middle of a conversation. So again, either they're expecting this little place to be empty, or this is part of a little show that they're putting on to distract and scare the first years for a minute. And it's the Fat Friar, and who else is it? Nick? We don't know. Because it's obviously more than one, but the Friar is one of them, the Hufflepuff ghost. And there's a ghost for every house, of course, and a few others, I think. Or maybe not a few others. I don't... Yeah, I forget, amazingly. And then the ghosts float away, and because McGonagall shows back up and she sends them on their way. Again, planned? Maybe. Possibly. And so then they all traipse into the Great Hall, big Great Hall that it is, and we get a glimpse of just how splendid the Great Hall is, and the thousands of candles that are floating in midair, and the big long tables for each house, and golden plates and goblets. And then the teacher's table up top, and of course that's where she leads them, is up there, so that they can do their sorting thing. And so Oh, and there's mentioned that the ghosts are here now because, of course, the ghosts are, again, there's one for each house. And so they're interested in the prospects of their house. Oh, and we get a mention of, I have to admit, this is like, for some reason, just one of the many things, I'm sure, but one of the things about the setting of the story that kind of fascinates me and that I would love to like find a way to replicate in real life, but it's the enchanted ceiling of the Great Hall that looks like the sky outside. And I think it would be kind of amazing to have a room in a house that has like a certain kind of camera trained on the sky, or maybe multiple cameras and like something that like, puts a view together with all that. And you have like either like not a projection, but like a screen for a ceiling, like a super high def screen for the ceiling. And it would display what's outside. So you'd literally it's like, and I know that like, somebody could make the argument, of course, that, you could just have glass. You could, if the room you wanted to do this in was not obstructed by like another floor above it, or like, you didn't have like a better complex roof plan that you would rather have involved than just flat glass. So yeah, disregarding the glass house or glass roof theory, I think it would be cool technologically to recreate something like that. But anyway, anybody patents that, I'll just take whatever percentage you'll give me. Just give me something. Come on, man. It's a good idea. Anyway, so yeah, we get a mention of the ceiling. And then Professor McGonagall brings out the sorting hat and puts it on a little stool, and then the hat does its little song. And it's funny. I'm a very, very, very big fan of the audiobooks, the British editions that Stephen Fry reads. But the one thing that kind of irritates me is that I guess he doesn't have a singing voice. He has a great voice for the characters, like amazing voice. But he doesn't, none of the songs, he never sings them. He just kind of recites them with a different tone. And I'm like, it would just, I don't know, like the rhymes and the way it's set up you can kind of tell it's set to go to certain types of tunes that are probably pretty common and that he could work off of, but whatever. I'm not going to sing it either, so don't get me wrong. Like, don't get your hopes up or anything. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to even read it. Let's just see if I can catch some of the, oh yes. So what the main point of this, and the Sorting Hat has different songs each year, or different things that it says or whatever. And this year, of course, because it's Harry's first year, we need more exposition about the houses. We get that, in which we find out that the Gryffindors are the brave at heart, and they have daring and nerve and chivalry, blah, blah, blah. The Hufflepuffs are just and loyal and patient and unafraid of toil. Ravenclaw, we get the whole mention of the wit and the learning. That's really all that it does mention about that. It's strictly about the intellectual thing. It's a shorter set of lines even. And then, of course, Slytherin, which cunning is used, and any means to achieve their ends, which I don't... It's not even really that veiled that, like, Slytherins are like... See, obviously they're not all bad, but it's... I don't know. It's one of the things about the situation that, like, later on in the story that bugs me. It's like, how is Slughorn the only Slytherin, and he's a teacher, that, like, for all intents and purposes, aside from, all right, we're going to keep our spoilers under control. We'll keep it moving. All right. So the hat finished its song, and everybody claps, and Ron's like, we just have to try on a hat. There's no test. Of course my brothers were bullshitting me because that's what Fred and George do. Wake up, Ron. Come on. You lived with them already for 11 years. But of course, Harry's still like, I don't know what I don't think any of those house descriptions fit me. Man, this still sucks. So, we get a bunch of people, and we get some of the people that will show up later here and there, some more featured more prominently than others. Hannah Abbott, Susan Bones, Terry Boot, Mandy Brocklehurst. There's a name that you won't hear again, I don't think. That's interesting. Every once in a while that happens. Lavender Brown, of course. Millicent Bulstrode. Justin Finch-Fletchley. Seamus Finnegan. Hermione Granger. And then we start getting to Gryffindors finally. Like, it kind of seems like there's Lavender's a Gryffindor too, but and really why? But that's neither here nor there. I still had to put variety in every house, right? And by they, I mean she. And then Harry's like, what if it just doesn't put me in any house? Like, he's just determined for something to go wrong, which, Harry, I fucking feel you, dude. Like, I know what it's like to forget that there's a good possibility for the outcome sometimes, and then, we get Neville sorted into Gryffindor, which of course is funny because he runs off wearing the hat. Morag McDougal. I don't remember that character ever coming back up again, but definitely a Slytherin, right? Fuck. Crabbe and Goyle. Moon Knot, Parkinson, Patils. And then Potter. Harry. And, of course, not only is Harry, like, freaking the fuck out about having to put this hat on and finds out what's going to happen in front of the whole school, but as soon as his name is called, the whole place, like, hushes and starts whispering everywhere. Harry Potter. Not the Harry Potter. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Etc. And so, yeah, no pressure, Harry. Just go put the hat on. No big deal. And so he does, and of course, we remember that Harry's small, and the hat fits down over his eyes, and the hat starts talking to him, and, we get a little bit of insight, and Harry's whispering to himself, not Slytherin, any fucking where, but Slytherin, dude. And the hat's like, oh yeah? Well, Slytherin could be good for you. You'd be great there. I mean, it's all in your head, or at least attached to it. But it doesn't say that last bit, but I mean, you may not know, and that's okay too. But then when he's like, no, sure, okay, Gryffindor then. And so Harry's like, trial number one, kind of one-ish, over with. Not if we're not counting getting to the train station and getting on the train, is because that was pretty, whatever. This is technically easier, I guess, but it was still in front of the whole school. So, and of course, the Gryffindor table goes nuts, and the crowd goes wow. And the Weasley twins are shouting, "We got Potter, we got Potter," and Percy Weasley's like talking about him, shaking his hand, and yeah, just everybody's fucking just smiles and grins and waves right now. And now Harry's amongst the students, so he can see the high table, like how it actually is set up instead of standing with his back to it up in front of the school. And he gets a chance to really lay his eyes on Dumbledore for the first time for real, in person. And he recognizes him from the card, which of course, again, where else could he have seen him before the card? Ron. Ron. And for whatever reason, we get to mention that Dumbledore's hair was so shiny that it was the only thing that shined as brightly as the ghost's. Magically silver hair, apparently. We see Quirrell, the nervous young man that he supposedly is. And he's got a large purple turban on, which is, in England, for somebody who's seems to just be a white dude. Turban? Okay. Right on. Purple? Alright. Whatever. More sorting happens, and then Ron gets sorted into Gryffindor after going pale, but because of course he fucking does, because he's a Weasley, and they all get sorted into Gryffindor. Not all families do, it's very true, but I don't believe that we've heard in this story of anybody close or distantly related to Ron that's anything but a Gryffindor. Now, granted, maybe they don't all get mentioned, but it's kind of implied. Anyway, I'm just saying. And yes, I also get that, like, Mrs. Weasley, technically speaking, wasn't a Weasley prior to marrying Mr. Weasley, so, it's just kind of funny that they all seem to sort of meld together as if, because they're all fair and redheaded, and they say that people do tend to take on similarities in appearance if you spend a lot of time around somebody. I don't know if that's really true or not. Who knows? There's a lot of weird shit that people say. Anyway. And so Ron makes it down to the table and get a mention of Blaise Zabini being made a Slytherin. And then finally, the sorting is done, and Dumbledore gets up, and everybody shuts the fuck up. And Dumbledore gives his first welcome speech, in which he says that he would like to say a few words. And here they are. Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak. And this is why Michael Gambon could never really play Dumbledore. That's all. Okay, anyway. And then he sits back down, and they fucking start the feast. And everybody's like, whoa, this guy's kind of crazy, but he's also our headmaster. Awesome. So yeah, and then much like George R. R. Martin, I gotta say that J.K. Rowling doesn't shy from food descriptions either, because the food at Hogwarts, pretty fucking stellar, man. Like, for real. Yeah, I mean, roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops, lamb chops, sausages, bacon, steak, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, chips. Wait, what are chips again in England? They're not really chips. I mean, they're not American chips. Fuck, maybe they are. I don't know. Yorkshire pudding, peas, carrots, gravy. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And of course now, we may get a little reference to the Dursleys and how, it wasn't like they necessarily starved him all the time, but they never gave him like free reign of eating whatever he wanted, and now he's got like more food in front of him. It's like the gold analogy again. He's got more than he knows what to even do with right now. It's kind of amazing that Harry doesn't end up being fat. I guess it's maybe just because he's a kid and he runs around enough and he's got high metabolism. But man, the food at Hogwarts is heavy, bro. I mean, it does sound kind of amazing, but, and that's saying something too, because it's England. But yep. And we get our first look at nearly headless Nick, the Gryffindor ghost, who likes to be referred to by his full name, Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Puppington. But that's not usually what he's just nearly headless Nick, or just Nick. And we get the physical description of why he's called nearly headless Nick, because somebody tried to behead him and left just a little bit of skin and sinew on the one side, and so he was never properly beheaded. He died like that, and that's where his ghost is. So he shows them by not, knocking his head off to the side and then putting it back on. Harry notices the Slytherin ghost, the Bloody Baron, and they ask Nick how he got so bloody, and Nick's like, I never asked, which is maybe true. I guess Nick is pretty proper and whatnot. And another great thing, somehow magically, well, not somehow, I guess it kind of makes sense, but the when they finally kind of sort of finish, all the leftover food just sort of fades away and vanishes, instead of somebody having to come up and clean it. But I guess it just all gets sent down to the kitchen magically. So anyway, and they get their desserts, of course. I mean, just food. And then eventually people started talking about their families, and we find out that Seamus is half and half. That his mom's a witch, and that they didn't, when his mom kept that from her father until after they'd been married. We get a mention of Neville being brought up by his grandmother, and how they thought maybe that he was a muggle. Or at least a squib, I guess is what they really mean, but they don't say that here yet. And then eventually they finally got some magic out of him, because they got him to bounce when they threw him out of a window or something. I'm skipping ahead. Oh, he let him go. He didn't actually throw him, but yeah. And of course, amazingly, Percy and Hermione hit it off pretty much right away, because, nerds unite. And they start talking about, Hermione's just going on about the things she wants to learn, and blah, 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 blah. And Harry's finally starting to feel very comfortable, warm and sleepy. And he sees Hagrid up at the high table, and McGonagall talking to Dumbledore, and Quirrell again. And then another teacher with greasy black hair and a hooked nose and sallow skin. And then that teacher looks at him straight into Harry's eyes, and a sharp, hot pain shot across the scar on Harry's forehead. Now, if that's a coincidence, I mean, we know, those of us who know the story know exactly why his scar will hurt. But why Snape looking at him? I mean, and I know there are other times in the story where Harry's scar hurts and something else happens right at the same time. I don't know. It just, how many of those can you have, Rowling? How many? Anyway, for some reason, Snape, and this is Snape, obviously. When Snape looks up at Harry, he feels his first scar pain in life. Actually, this is his first one, and it's just it's a quick in and out pain. But and of course, he also, after that, he still feels unnerved too, not just by the pain, but the way the teacher was looking at him, like a look of loathing from a perfect stranger. But we'll soon learn why that is. And so, yeah, Harry's like, who the fuck is that? And Percy's like, yeah, that's Snape. He's the potions teacher. And he mentions that he really wants the dark arts job, but that's Quirrell's job right now. Yeah. And then finally, random, for you American, U.S. Aryan, oh God, I say that out loud, fuck, people in the U.S., it's mentioned in these, and I have to double check the English editions at some point, but the American editions at some point, for a long time, even listening to these audiobooks, the British editions, I didn't realize that when they said puddings that they didn't mean literally just puddings, that they meant dessert in general as a category. So I was like, wow, they just have puddings for dessert. But as it turns out, it's a more generic term than it is in America. In America, if you say pudding, you mean a type of pudding, and usually a sweet one. We don't really do savory puddings as much either, so there's that. But yeah, just random side note. I don't know if they changed that word or not, because they do change a fair amount as far as just lingo that Americans aren't familiar with. So, and then Dumbledore gives his proper speech, gets back up, some rules about not going in the forest. We get Filch's list of Filch is the caretaker, I guess. Yeah, that is his title. But he's also kind of just the asshole that prowls around and like sort of gets students in trouble for random shit. And he has a big list of forbidden objects and things, and so that's mentioned. And it's not listed or anything, but it's mentioned as and that you can find it in his office, which of course no student at Hogwarts is trying to find their way to Filch's office to look at a list. They're not trying to get anywhere near his office, period. But anyway. And then we get a little clue about something to do with this overall story in this particular novel. When Dumbledore speaks up in the midst of his speech and says, and finally I must tell you that this year the third floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. Which, you know, obviously sounds kind of like almost a joke, because it's like, really? But yeah, so that's mentioned, and Harry's like, really? And Percy's like, yeah, it must be serious, because, you know, he's just not going to say that. He doesn't. Dumbledore, he might joke, but he doesn't lie. That's kind of his thing. He will omit truths. He might even tell just part of, but he will not lie. Not usually. At least maybe he has in the past, obviously, but not these days. Not so much. And then they sing this ridiculous school song, which I don't know that it ever comes back up again. And it's pretty ridiculous, but I'm not going to read it. And everybody like sings it in a different tune. There's no like, it's not organized, and it's just sort of silly. And Dumbledore's like, when they finish, the Weasley twins finish in some sort of slow funeral march version, and Dumbledore conducts them. It's like very, very silly and like great at the same time. And Dumbledore's like, music, a magic beyond all we do here. Yeah, that's just one of those things that obviously is not in the movie, and it probably would be stupid in the movie. But if it happened in real life, it would be fucking hilarious. So anyway, everybody gets sent away to go to bed, and so now the Gryffindor first years have to find their way. Well, not find their way. Percy will guide them, but they get to see the common room for the first time, and the rest of the castle for that matter, at least parts of it anyway, the parts that they need to cover to get between the Great Hall and their common rooms, which for some is shorter distances, but for the Gryffindors is a reasonable little hike. We get mention of the people in the portraits, which is another thing that's really cool in Hogwarts, I think. Moving around and running from painting to painting and doing all kinds of stuff, having their own little personalities based on what the character, who they're supposed to be, and maybe what era they're even from or whatever. And we get our first look at Peeves, the poltergeist, who is, you know, he is like the arch Bishop of Mayhem at Hogwarts. He's not a bad guy, but, well, in the end, when there's true evil afoot, he doesn't support it. Let's put it that way. But prior to that, he pretty much is not on anybody's side except for his own, just for the amusement of himself. He's not exactly a ghost. There's like a difference. He's a little bit more, he seems to be more there. He's less translucent than the ghost. I don't really understand what that still means about what he is, but anyway. And we learned that the only way you can threaten Peeves is with the Bloody Baron, the Slytherin ghost, which seems to kind of hold true pretty much the entire time. It's the only entity that Peeves seems to be scared of. Anyway, and then after they get past Peeves and deal with that bullshit, they get to the picture of the painted lady, the fat lady. Yeah, I couldn't think, and I couldn't find it on the page either, but there it is. So they get to the end of the corridor, and there is a portrait of a very fat woman in a pink silk dress, and she is essentially the gatekeeper, as it were. She's the one that makes you give her her password to get inside the Gryffindor common room. And so we get in. Percy has the password, of course, because he's a prefect. And so they all scramble. They scramble. They scramble through it, and of course Neville needs a leg up because he's Neville and he's 11. And there they are. It's a cozy round room. It's got squashy armchairs. It's mostly red and gold, I presume, even though I don't know if that's actually mentioned, but it is. And then Percy takes them to their dormitories, and theirs is at the top. And it's obviously a tower. It's round, and there's 4 posters for all of the first years. And so here's another place where, like, one of the little logic things kind of gets a little weird, because people have asked Rowling how many students there were at Hogwarts before, and I don't even remember what the number is, but whatever the number was, it doesn't break down to having 5 people in Harry's class. Let me put it that way. And maybe it's one of those things that for some reason his class is the exception, and that other ones have like 15 or 20, but 5 is quite few. Because if you think about it, there's 4 houses, so that would mean there would only be 20 boys in the first year right now, and roughly 20 girls. So 40 students total times 7 years. That's 28. Is that 2,800 or 280? It's 280, isn't it? Fuck, I don't know. I just lost the math in my head as soon as I said it. But I don't know. I think it must be the lower number, 280, because the point being is that it didn't seem like it would be enough to, like, say, for example, fill the Quidditch stands when they have matches and things like that. There just seems to be... So, yeah, I guess we have to assume that... And I'm sure she's probably... I know Rowling will answer questions from fans, and I know this one's come up before. I don't know how much she's clarified. But anyway, tangents because we can. And if you know more about this than I do, which is entirely possible, feel free to put a comment down there and tell me where I went wrong or what I just didn't know about that little part there. So anyway, we find out that what did we find out? Let's see. No, we don't get the mention of everybody that's okay. I was trying to look for the names, but I don't see them, and I guess it doesn't come up right away who the 5 are. Obviously, Ron and Harry are 2 of them. So I'll wait. I mean, obviously I know who they are, but I'll wait. And then Harry falls asleep pretty much right away as soon as he gets in bed, because he ate a lot and he's really just tired. Probably it's been a long day. Let's keep it real. And then he has a weird dream, and he's wearing Professor Quirrell's turban, and the turban is talking to him, and he's telling him that he needs to transfer to Slytherin because it's his destiny. And Harry tells the turban he didn't want to be in Slytherin the same way he told the Sorting Hat he didn't want to be in Slytherin. And he said that it says that it got heavier and heavier, and he tries to pull it off. And then Malfoy is laughing at him while he's struggling with it. And then Malfoy turns into Snape. And then Snape's laugh becomes high and cold, and there's a burst of green light, and Harry wakes up. It's worth mentioning all those things because those things all kind of like are very relevant to this story. This specific book, I mean to say, even. But everything, really. And of course, he rolls over after that. And if he did dream, he doesn't remember it the next day. And he doesn't remember this dream either the next day. He's just slept on. And that... So it's an interesting, way of telling the story right in the moment so that, we find out what he dreamed about, but then back to sleep, and then he wakes up again and nothing. So that is the end of that chapter. And so we are at Hogwarts, and things move a little more slowly, I guess, early on. We're setting so much up. I feel like the books can actually get better, so we'll see if you guys keep me going and I keep going and we do this thing. Well, let's just say the story continues to get better, even in this book. But book to book, it gets better, in my opinion, too. So we'll see if we're actually make it that far. Who knows? Anything's possible. Anyway, yes, as always, the like and the comment and the thing and the stuff and, make me feel like I'm doing this for a reason. I feel like I am. I feel like it's fun. I'm having fun. But, I want to make sure that you guys are entertained. So, let me know what you think and what else you might like me to do or whatever. Any of those things. I don't know. I'm just saying stuff now. So, yeah, that's the end, and we'll see you next time.